Welcome to the Lost Rewatch. It's still going strong. We only have one episode today. It's just the way the season was. It's an uneven season, but we're doing greatest hits. Charlie's last centric episode, right?
Yeah.
My last centric episode.
Yep.
I should have wrote that on my hand. But I'm joined by Ethan and Eckhart. If we look familiar, we recapped season 3 of Westworld. We were here each Sunday night talking about the latest episode of Westworld. So if you want to check that out and see what we had to say about it, just go on Crazy Hank TV and click the playlist Westworld season 3. That's all you have to do. And you hear all the goodies and all the information.
It's in a playlist?
It's in a playlist. You just have to click. I call it the greatest hits.
What's the coincidence? What are the odds?
I mean, this is basically, well, you can start, but this is like the chess piece, but we're going to kill Charlie episode, and we're letting you know, right?
Yeah, I remember this being this because I like Charlie. And before I forget, we're going to talk about the greatest hits. We're going to recap that or just give our thoughts on it. And then since it's only a one episode thing, we thought we'd talk about some other TV shows after Lost, but we'll tell you before we get into that and all that stuff. So if you're in the chat, that's what's going to happen. If you're just watching this tomorrow or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever you're watching it. So anyway, I remember this. I was sad because we all knew Charlie was going to die. But
did we though? Was there like a press release saying he was leaving or anything like that?
Well, there's enough spoilers out there that I guess it. But I was hoping I was going to be wrong because even at the end where Desmond goes, "I'll take your place, Charlie." Yeah. But it always bugs me, and I think we might as well just bring it up. I know it's at the end, but the reason Charlie agrees to do this is because because Desmond sees Claire and Aaron leaving on a helicopter.
Mm-hmm. Funny, I don't remember that happening in the show.
Yeah, it didn't happen. So I know a lot of people were ticked off at Desmond after that. So does this bring back bad memories? Saying, okay, Desmond, you were wrong. Were you wrong the whole time that Charlie was going to die?
It was literally like the biggest point in my notes that I was writing down. Like Desmond's a liar.
It's funny because we all concluded that as we rewatched it now, but I was thinking about like at the time that I first watched that, I wouldn't have had that cynical approach. And it's more like as I'm watching it this time, I'm trying to think about like if he's nudging Charlie in a direction that fits his own, to his own benefit, right? But when I first watched it, like you kind of back when it first came out, I don't think we were that cynical and skeptical as a society. So we just assumed that he was telling the truth, right?
Well, because everything up to that point had happened.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And when we don't know that the helicopter doesn't come for Claire and Aaron.
And when he makes that comment about the helicopter, do we already know that that's where they unjam the radio signal?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, because that's kind of like we can figure that out by me asking, in the history of Jay and Jack, this is the one good crackpot theory, right? The underwater hatch.
Oh, yeah, good. Yeah.
Is
this like the only one you've ever gotten right?
But it doesn't matter though, because
this was the crackpot theory that cracked the surface that allowed all the other ones to come out.
This was like winning the Super Bowl, because on this theory, I had taken so much heat because every time I brought it up, people would go. I'd get literally nasty emails from people saying, "Stop with the blankety blank under it. It's never going to happen. Shut the F up." Blah, blah, blah. So when it happened, it was like,
yeah. Is this the episode where you find out though? Is this like the first episode where you get sweet crackpot redemption?
Well, there have been rumors about it. I think the episode before they mention it.
Okay.
But this is the one where you actually see it. So it's like, take that, people. I was right.
So when Juliet actually mentions the looking glass and describes what it is, and then Saeed confirms that with the cable, you were just like dancing naked on your couch at that point in time.
I don't know if I was dancing naked, but I was dancing.
Well, you watched the show naked, so obviously you were naked when you were dancing.
Yeah.
He went and got some clothes, put them on, and then did a striptease just to celebrate.
I should go back and listen to that episode because I just remember saying I can't wait to record this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I remember saying that.
That was probably your name for the podcast.
Yeah, could have been.
I'm Jay, and I can't wait to record this episode.
Maybe I was probably I was right, you were wrong, or something.
But
like
I think that's an important point because it's like if he says I saw you push a button, and then the helicopter rescued Claire, and he said that before he knew about the looking glass, then there's no reason to think that like he was kind of nudging him into a certain direction to his benefit, right?
So what we're asking is Desmond evil?
I don't think he was. I mean, I think that because maybe since Charlie died a different way, didn't he die a different way? That maybe it changed what was going on.
Well, this is where the writing was so good. If I remember correctly, I didn't watch the next 2 episodes, but if I remember correctly, they're aren't they both down there?
Yeah, he does go down. He does go down there.
Both go down there, and that's why it's like that whole episode. People are like, "Oh my god, maybe Charlie's going to make it," right?
Right.
And that's where like it was, really good. It was really good Lindeloffian writing, right?
Well, what happens though if Charlie, episodes before gets shot through the throat with an arrow?
Well, then someone else has to go down and.
So, I mean, it's just, it's all going in one direction and there's mile variances. I guess the end is always the same, but there's going to be little variances on the way. Little chess pieces move. Maybe he didn't see a face. Maybe he saw a baby and someone else's completely blonde hair.
Right.
Well, Kate takes Aaron.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
It's like, there, I was thinking, could it be Juliet? He was thinking about, Juliet, the blondes are Juliet and Penny. There's no one else he could have like. It's a vast fork in the road in the vision, is what I'm saying.
The thing that also jumped out at me too is the fact that he's describing it verbally and they don't actually show like some sort of a potential flash forward like all the other instances. Right.
Well, there's no flash forward. There's not even a flash forward now. Flash forward start the next episode.
I meant just like where he's. I didn't mean it in the lost sense. I meant it in the general sense.
When we see the arrow to Charlie's neck, that's it.
Right. Yeah.
They probably at that point would have been giving too much away.
Right.
That they think.
It's also probably much more expensive to shoot the image of her getting on the helicopter, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, they filmed. Spoiler alert! They filmed Locke and Sawyer and everybody in that casket, right?
Yes.
So I mean, I don't know.
Well, also you had what was I going to say? Oh, one of you mentioned that you kind of think, okay, Charlie could live through this because when he gets into the hatch, he lays there. He goes, "I'm alive." So you think, okay, maybe he will live.
I don't think I ever thought Charlie was going to live after the episode.
I'll be the first to admit that when I was watching the last 2 episodes, like I was like, "Oh my god, they're actually going to let this guy live."
I might have thought that towards the very end of the last episode, right before the, Penny and not her boat situation.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, when I first watched it, I didn't understand how or why he had that marker. Like, it kind of bothered me, and I was like, okay, this episode, the entire episode explains that. Because he's there writing all the stuff off his bucket list, right?
Right.
So I thought it was actually an interesting tie-in that, like, and I'm sure they didn't mean this, but the fact that they show him writing what he thought was the most important moments were of his life, and then his final act, which of course we're running ahead 2 episodes, is this act of self-sacrifice and to let Desmond know that it's not Penny's boat.
Right.
And I've read enough Rockstar interviews to know that if you don't if you run into someone like that, and they've been through it enough times where they run into people, then people get mad at them if they don't have a marker or a pen to sign their name. So Charlie, being a rock star, probably always has. Even after he crashed, he probably went to Sawyer first thing. He says,
I need a bloody pen.
Sharpie, then heroin is what I need.
I need Sharpie. Sharpie had to be first.
Stop looking at me like that. I need a bloody Sharpie.
What you guys didn't see was there was a Sharpie in the bathroom in the pilot of the plane.
That's what he went in there for, not the heroin.
The bonus, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Plus, those markers smell pretty good, from what I hear.
Well, let's go back to the beginning, and I like how Jack's taken the whole group out for an outing, just to show Russo blowing up a tree. Mm-hmm. Could you just say Russo has dynamite, and
for all good, the tree might have done in Ernst.
Wouldn't the others have heard the tree blowing up?
They're on the other side preparing and trying to get away with stupid Carl.
I know it's for the dramatic effect. And also we find out because the episode before, a couple episodes before the brig, Russo does show up at the Black Rock and Locke is sitting there and goes, "Hey, how you doing, Russo? Hey, just getting some dynamite."
Right. Yeah.
So it does make sense now why she was doing that. It just, I just always, I guess it's for dramatic and for TV, but taking everybody out there, Juliet, he tells them that Juliet was telling me the whole time and, the whole thing. I just didn't understand why you had to blow up the tree. We all know what dynamite does.
You're gonna have to talk to Carlton Cuse about that.
Okay.
There was a Duralsack in the tree he had to destroy.
I don't know. I just was like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But, dramatic effect.
Yeah. I mean, it made it okay. Rousseau can do this. Of course, then they get there and she doesn't have enough wire. Okay, you've been planning this for how long? You didn't know ahead of time you're going to need more wire. Is it just me am I just being picky?
Well, that's what we're doing. I mean, this is like the 8th time you've reviewed this episode of Lost, right?
Yeah.
Right. So,
but let me just say, I love the episode. But there's things that just, if I was on the island, there'd be things I'd be like, why didn't we have the wire already? Why didn't you tell me this ahead of time? 3 days ago, I could have had all the wire ready to go.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, we got to keep everything a secret.
Carl screws up everything, from what I can tell.
I'll say this. I really liked the scenes where he's in the paddle boat. And it reminded me of like one of the things that made Lost so great in terms of this whole, island panic are just those scenes of like, not just people, obviously people rushing through the jungle, but just like when they're just this rudimentary paddle boat, just pushing it through the sand into the water and then paddling it in the jeans. And it's like, this is just so like iconically Lost.
and so much of the episode is really what stood out to me was panicky planning, right? And mechanics and setting up where people are going to be for the beginning of the next episode.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because even Charlie makes a comment when they're on the, going through the jungle to see the tree explode. Why don't we be more open? Why don't we? And it's something that I think, as obviously you have to have having them be quiet and not honest with each other keeps the story going. But it is frustrating when you're like going, okay, if he just would have told us 3 days ago, all this could have been done and ready to go.
But the thing that came to mind at that point was like, and obviously I remember hearing you say this all the time when you were reviewing the show while it was on the air in terms of why people aren't honest with each other. But at this point in time, that group is basically just like an office.
Yeah, that's true.
Are just like not acting rationally for the entire team in survival. Like
everyone has their own agenda. They have their own agenda.
Colleagues, and they like one day they like each other, the other day like they want to stab each other in the back.
Right.
And it's like what you said, like the one guy who really was like consistent in terms of having his eye on the ball was Saeed.
Yeah.
And that's the guy that, for whatever reason, they turned him into the smoke monster at the end, which didn't really make much sense to me. But, someone else will tackle that problem in 2 years' time on this channel.
Sorry, I didn't follow. Saeed and they turned him into
the smoke monster, right?
He dies.
Don't they, like, at the end of the series, don't they basically do some sort of ritual on him?
Well, yeah, they bring him back. They bring him back from the dead, and I think he. I love talking about season 6. He goes to he's pushed in the well, right? No, Desmond's in the well. No,
Desmond is pushed in the well. He gets pushed into the water.
He's pushed in the water at the temple, right? With Dolores and with Dolores and Solstar, right? He turns good again when they get him all on the boat, because he's the one who takes, spoilers everyone, he takes the bomb and doesn't.
Well, yeah, he ends up blowing up the submarine, but
but he doesn't get completely taken over by.
But for the while, he's basically like almost
an agent.
Yeah, he's turned into like some sort of like a vessel for the smoke monster, isn't he?
Yeah, it was something like that.
I'm going to take a note. Me and Eckhart would like to be asked back for that episode.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, again, he even says, like, to Jack, he's like, look, like, forget about like whatever tension, do what's right.
Yeah.
And Jack's he's very macho this episode, saying, I'm taking charge now like you've wanted me to for so long.
Well, yeah, but we've been asked to do that for 90 days, and you haven't really done it.
And we're there watching, we're like asking why. Why were people asking him?
And Saeed's like going, well, here's the plan. Yeah. No. And then at the end, Jack's like, okay, Charlie, you can go kill yourself because I need it now.
Well, I mean, what's the name of the place where, because this is next in the episode, what's the name of the place where his father teaches him to swim? It's on the page you made for the show.
Oh, I didn't even look at it.
Bilkins or something like that.
Yes, something cool. Yeah.
BL, right?
Yeah.
I know, Jack. It's called Mercia.
Well, it goes to where a lot of people, when they see Charlie swimming, and he said, "I was a swimmer." He was probably lying about that.
He was a North England champion or something like that. Yeah,
and people said, "Wait, Charlie said he can't swim," and he said, "No, he doesn't swim." They go back to that first season where what's her name is drowning in the ocean, and he goes, "I don't swim." He doesn't say I can't swim. He says I don't swim.
We'll bring this up later. That's some Lori Garvey BS right there. We'll talk about that
later. But I thought Saeed was going to punch Jack at one point because Jack is not listening to him again. Mm-hmm. Why listen to Saeed? I'm going to listen to Juliet, who's another
that I got the hot for at this particular moment.
Exactly, and she's so far she hasn't lied to Jack so much, right?
Well, I mean, I didn't watch season 3 before I came here, the whole thing, but wasn't she basically like the main captor, like the person that talks to the?
She was, but she was fairly honest with him for the most part, as honest as another can be. She was pretty honest. I mean, she's more honest than Ben. But I like Saeed's like going, look, I got this phone. You want to be rescued or not?
Right.
And
Jack's just like, no, we're going to kill them all. We're going to kill them all.
By the way, what's her name? Her name is Danielle, right?
Danielle Russo.
She's like, her response to not shutting down her signal was, that's been on for 20 years. And it was just like, and then, I mean, before that became an argument between her and Saeed. Then, of course, Juliet told her, look, we've been jamming that signal. Right. And that's how we get to a looking glass discussion, right?
Right.
Basically, Danielle's reaction was like, no, I'm not going to turn this off. It's been on for 20 years, right? Like her signal was more important than them trying to use the sat phone.
Oh, I thought she was basically saying it's not going to work. My thing's been going forever.
Yeah, and nobody's heard it. It's been going on for 16 years, whatever, however long it's been. But she, like I said, I think, her point was that it's not going to work. And so he's like, why doesn't anyone listen to me? Why won't anyone listen to me?
And it's like she might have arrived there before the sat phone technology even was available. So
yeah, well, it did, because she's been there for 16 years.
So why didn't the others stop her signal anyway? Manually, as well as jam signals off the island. Why'd they let hers go?
They probably thought it was pretty funny.
Because an episode, I think it's the pilot episode, right? We first hear it. It makes for great TV.
Well, I'm not going to deny you there. This was at the height of my Lostdom. This is like, because I remember the next week, and I think I've mentioned this to you before, was Through the Looking Glass, and I went to see a friend in Las Vegas, and I was during the finale, and I was not paying attention to my friend. I was running in and out of the room to watch Lost. So
who wouldn't?
And the other key thing is, and it's I really felt this as I watched these 2 episodes now, this one and the one a few weeks ago, is that watch it now, you don't have like a running inventory in your head of all of the unexplained stuff, right? Because like as we were watching this stuff live, like
speak for yourself, sir.
An inventory of things, of answers we were looking for, and new questions that we had to add to the unanswered list, right? So, and of course, I was then from season 4 onwards, I was just watching it to see when Jack would be proven right again, right? I had a whole additional list of crackpot theories I needed to check off, right?
Yeah, it didn't matter at that point.
Now, when we know how the entire story unfolds, we just kind of look at it to see, for the other stuff, right? In terms, and that's where the emphasis on office politics kicks into high gear. And I have to say, I would focus a little bit more this time around on just the different characters and the actors playing them to see how good of a job they're doing. I remember when I was watching this the first time, I thought Desmond was really intriguing as a character. Henry Ian Cusick's his acting in this one, every time he'd look at Charlie and give him that weird look,
Grim Reaper,
it was just way too over the top.
It was, and I remember watching, because I always take notes on people's appearance, which is it takes a lot of work to get these people to look this disheveled with their hair so perfectly. And you buy it because the hair is so dirty. When your hair is really that dirty, it gets hard anyway. But Desmond's is in a perfect
lion's mane.
With that almost follows the shirt line exactly down to the open part of his shirt, and it's just a big Wrath of Khan chest piece.
Yeah,
because Desmond knows when he's going to be in the scene, and he gets his hair done.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me take a step back. The actor, he's not actually Scottish, right?
I don't know.
He's definitely.
I don't know what he actually is. Let me double check as we're talking here.
I know he's British. He's at least British.
I know when he came to Hollywood, he crashed on Brian Cox's couch.
Okay, it says that he's.
What I know about him.
This might explain a lot. It says that he's Scottish Peruvian.
Oh, really?
Okay, so that explains some of his that explains his long hair, right?
And he can make delicious chicken.
Okay, so I noticed in this episode that his Scottish accent was kind of receding.
Okay,
and it's because we see it obviously when he's about to cry and he doesn't, he's telling people how he's a coward, right? That's when the Scottish brogue really comes out, right? But when he's talking to Charlie and he's telling him what's going to happen, I was like, wait a second, this guy doesn't sound that Scottish right now.
Do you know how much? It's so funny how much I didn't watch the show this time. The way you were watching the show, I'm not picking up any of this stuff.
So you're enjoying this?
Yeah.
Again, I was more upset with Desmond because, again, Charlie. I'm the whole premise is that Charlie has to die and it always bugged me.
Has Desmond said anything else that he got wrong? And is there that much predicting after this thing with Charlie?
No, I don't think so at all.
No, I don't think so.
No, and it's just the only other thing is he gets this look upon his face when he knows in the sideways and on the island what's going to happen afterward.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, wasn't for a while, weren't people talking about, when they were talking about like variables and constants, that there was some sort of like mathematical relationship between Desmond and Charlie, in addition to Desmond and Penny?
There was a lot of talk about that.
Like,
What?
Sorry, what's that?
Say again?
So when the show was going on and people would drum up these theories about constants and variables, right?
That Charlie was.
And they would say that Penny and Desmond were each other's constant, or something like that, and then they would somehow Charlie and Desmond had some sort of mathematical relationship too, based on these episodes.
Right. Yeah. There was. I can't remember the theory, but you're right. There was a theory out there.
Well, Desmond has two other constants, right? Isn't he Faraday's constant?
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So
His constant.
Just Desmond gets around.
I mean, look at his chest, man. I take it.
And then we had the part where Ben. We go back. What, it was 8 hours earlier. Ben comes back without Locke. And everyone's like, well, "Where's Locke?" And then I like how he hands Alex the gun back as she's tearing apart a rabbit for Carl's dinner. She's got blood all over her hands, and she throws the gun to, "Here's your gun back."
What a dick!
But he's a terrible dad. But Richard's like, "Where's Locke? What happened to Locke?" And they're all asking, "What happened to Locke?" He goes, "He had an accident."
It's very, very reminiscent of Arnold Schwarzenegger on Commando. I let him go.
But then Ben's shouting orders. We got to move everything up. Or da, 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 da.
I do like how you can see the whole thing about, well, Jacob said this. Well, I'm moving it up, or Jacob changed his mind, right?
Yeah.
How like the orders within the cult are starting to break down.
Right. Yeah. They were losing faith in Ben, and you could see it in the previous episodes, but really in this one, Richard's like going, "What are you doing? Where's Locke?" Because they were hoping Locke was going to take over. I don't know why you want Locke taking over, but I like how Alex runs to Carl and says, "You got it." And Carl's like, "Well, don't they already know they're coming? And don't they already know?" And finally he goes, "Ford and Austin saved your life." Okay. And that's where you see him push the catamaran, the
pontoon.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
I love that scene. That might have been the highlight of the show for me.
Yeah.
Carl sucks.
I don't see Carl being strong enough to push it in the water. I could be wrong.
But he knew that he had to lean forward with the shoulders. So
okay, so he knew that.
Then again, he also had a very good stuntman do that.
He was running for his life.
But also he didn't get any rabbit.
Yeah,
because he was told there'd be rabbit, and so he has to go off. And then he goes there, and I like the scene. He goes, when he's going back and forth, he goes, "Well, Juliet's a spy, and she's going to do this." And of course, Juliet goes, "Thanks, Carl. Thanks for the help."
I mean, it was like an office meeting.
Yeah.
Like where the other division was trying to curry favor with the new division, right?
Right.
Yeah, but Carl is totally the Mindy Kaling of the island, I think. No? Okay.
I got it. See, we go back to Liam, who's a bloody mess, and he gives his ring. It wasn't Drive Shaft ring, but it was named after their uncle.
Is that what it is? Because this is the very first time I put together that the ring wasn't Drive Shaft. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention before.
I had forgot, but I when he said that, I go, "That's right. It was named after the uncle." They named the Drive Shaft after the uncle. Yeah,
some sort of family heirloom. I would say go back and at least one additional generation. I think it was like something like Dexter Stamford or something like that.
It was something like that, yeah. And
Drive
so Charlie,
what's his name? Drive Shaft Pace.
Yeah. But that ring, and Charlie leaves it in the Aaron's cradle.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know you're jumping around. But this goes into it. We got this conversation between Naomi and Charlie about how they're both from Manchester.
Yeah.
Right.
And I just want to throw out some music stuff because that's kind of what I do.
Okay.
Manchester's like the birthplace of some of my favorite music in the world. It's birthplace like Joy Division, which turned into New Order, right? Which turned into like the Hacienda and all that, acid house stuff from the 90s rave scene and all that kind of stuff. But also from there is Oasis.
Yeah.
And there is so much, like, first of all, he's playing Wonderwall.
Yep.
And second of all, it's a band with two brothers.
And one of them's called Liam.
And one of them's called Liam. So,
wasn't there a scene at some point in time in like season 2 where they're fighting like the Oasis brothers too?
Maybe that was when they're wearing diapers. I don't really remember. No, because
where they like butt break like there's definitely a scene where Liam like goes nuts and destroys a room.
Yeah. I mean, but they both like are yo-yoing between addiction all the time, right?
I think when they were fighting, I don't think Charlie wasn't on heroin yet when they fought.
Okay,
if I remember correctly.
But
speaking about Oasis, since this is relevant, there was a few months ago I looked at their Wikipedia page because when that was popular, of course, in the late 90s, before we had Wikipedia, right? But you would hear these stories about this band getting in a fight. There was one incident where one of the brothers, I'm guessing it was Liam, basically attacked the other one with a guitar, swinging it like an axe right before a show.
Yeah. Nice. That gets your blood going. So you get, if you're going to do a performance, that's.
Well, they released their arguments in England on a bootleg tape. Someone released them and they went into the charts. That's how famous they were.
Yep.
But
I did like where Charlie was busking Wonderwall. I guess the only question was, I assume that's after the band dissolved, right? And before he went on to Australia. So, right? That was my assumption, right?
Which scene?
Where he saves Nadia.
Nadia. Oh yeah, this is afterwards. Yeah.
Well, first he plays Wonderwall in front of a big green screen, right? Obvious green screen in London, and then he saves
Nadia.
Saeed's soulmate that he would be in the other place with, Nadia. Oh wait, not her.
No.
Yeah. And she called him a hero. That had to have been in that spot before he went to Australia. I mean, obviously before Australia, but after the band.
Yeah, it was well after the band. Yeah.
That must have been like the other people that they didn't show walking by, and they're like, "Wait, is that the guy from Drive Shaft?"
I don't know why there wasn't more of that while he was.
I have my Sharpie.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's waterproof.
But you guys will be happy to know that during that conversation that Charlie had with
Naomi.
No, not Naomi. I'm blanking. Australian.
Nadia?
No.
Liam?
No. Aaron's mom.
Oh, Claire.
Sorry, Claire. Of course, her lips were moving, but all I could hear was Jay Glatfelter's bad imitation.
You got my baby, Charlie. I thought it was a good scene, though.
And that's the sad thing. Like that was actually one of the better scenes of like those two actors, and all I could think about was Jay's bad imitation.
Well, when Charlie tells Aaron he loves him, and then you have the scene with Hurley. Hurley wants to go and help, and he goes, "No, you're too big for the boat." And Hurley goes, "Dude, man." And then Charlie gives him a hug, and you're like, "Oh no, this could be the last time."
Well, I mean, I really wish Charlie had been a bit more harsh, because they kind of soft pedal it, because he has to be. I mean, I'm a big guy, and so like every big guy knows their limitations. I'm sorry, this scene hit a little close to home. But every big guy knows their limitations, so he knows it. I knows it. There's an unknown thing going on. It's basically saying, if this was in the real world and I'm trying to get you away from me to save you, I'm not going to say you're too big, you won't fit the boat. I'm going to say you're too fat, you can't fit the boat. Because you're trying to hurt his feelings to make him go to save his life.
Right.
But this was not true to life, and there was a, come on, man, give me a hug. Because the writers...
Well, to be fair, he did know that Charlie did know this was going to be the last time he would talk with Hurley.
Charlie thought it was, but Hurley didn't know.
No, Hurley didn't know, but Charlie knew. So I don't think he wanted to leave it on a bad note, right?
Well, of course he didn't, but some point.
And I think you're probably right. In real life, that would have been what had happened. But for us as the viewer, I don't want Charlie's last word to be pissing Hurley off because they were always so good together.
Well, he's going to see him when he's dead anyway, a bunch. So
I get that, but I didn't know that at the time. So I didn't.
Let's face it. Charlie dies, and he's in the next episode. Think about it. Charlie dies at the end of season 3. He's in season 4.
That's right. He's Ghost Charlie. I forgot about that.
He's way more.
Let's talk about Bernard. Who, out of nowhere, they were smart. They had him do something with the wires, and of course he butchered it. And Rose was good at it because they just couldn't have. But and then Bernard said, "I'll be one of the shooters." And Rose was like, I don't know, Jack, you got to guarantee me. And then Jack doesn't really guarantee. I guarantee you that. I forget what he said, but it was a terrible guarantee.
It wasn't a guarantee. It was a do what I say or shut up. I don't have anything about Rose and Bernard. Right here in my notes, it says Dharma employees.
I'll say this. I was actually like, how many lines did Rose have? 5 lines?
5 lines, I think, something like that, yeah.
She probably was the best actor on the show this episode. She was like, just like...
Well, she's a great actress. She's
such a great actress. And it's just the way that she delivered it, too. Like, to me, it was like, I actually felt like I was in the scene right there. Like, Sorry, what's that?
Well, I think everybody else had just a little bit of... It was exposition-y, the whole episode was. So, I think you're right.
But the way that she responded in terms of, like you just said with Jack, where it's like... It's nonsense. I don't care what you say. I'm going to stay here with my husband. Okay.
Right.
This is what I'm going to do and what I'm going to do. Right.
Right. Well, you know what? If we had gotten the wire 3 days ahead of time, Bernard wouldn't have to stay behind. Saeed wouldn't have to stay behind.
Right.
And who's the other shooter?
Is it Jin?
Jin. That's right. Jin.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have to stay behind. And I think that's the last time that's up into, and isn't that the last time that Jin and Sun are together until the submarine, right?
Yeah, and that goes down real well. I mean, that goes over really well.
So yeah, Jack not planning ahead kept them apart.
But didn't Saeed pull an audible right there at the end with Jack saying you're the one who needs to take them, right?
Right. Saeed goes, I'll stay behind. I can shoot a gun. Go, Jack, go. But and then we get the end where Charlie goes. He's got the bag of rocks, the weighted belt. Again, I'm not an expert. I'm not a diver. I used to snorkel a lot, but that's not the same as diving. But wouldn't it have been faster to pull yourself down with the cable than the rocks that are suddenly they couldn't have been weighing that much. The rocks were like propelling him down to. It's like he had like a propeller on his back. He's going really fast. Wouldn't it have been faster to grab the cable and pull the cable down like this?
Do we really know exactly where the rope ends, though?
It looked like it ended at the.
But they don't know that. It could have been tied to the side or something.
But he was swimming right next to it. At any point, you could I'm going to drop off now and push the rocks out.
Sure.
I'm just throwing it out there for argument's sake.
I think probably could have taken off his jeans, quite frankly.
Yeah.
They don't do that in Lost.
No, they have to swim in the tide.
You have to swim with jeans on.
I can always watch and hope again. Maybe it'll change.
No, if you're gonna swim, you have to have jeans on, and it's something about the water in that area. But Charlie gets in there. He goes, oh, I'm alive, and then 2 girls come out with guns. Into the episode. So, anything else before we get into if you liked it or not? Anything else you guys want to talk about this episode?
I had a question. Juliet says it was flooded from the accident years ago. She's talking about the incident, right?
I believe so, yes.
But
she's going by information that Ben has told her, so we don't know if Ben's lying or not.
Right.
Maybe she thought it was the incident, or they think it, but it's not. It was from, in reality, it's from Macau blowing it up with the bomb to kill Charlie. I just put that together. I'm smart. No, I'm good. I like it.
Anything else, Eckhart?
No, it was a good episode. I mean, again, like watching it now, knowing how everything kind of falls together in terms of the pieces, really lets you look at the actors, what they bring, the dialogue, that type of stuff, and of course the scenery, right?
Yeah, I thought Dominic Monaghan did a good job in this episode. I liked his when Charlie his look. I thought with his scene with Aaron and Claire was really done well. I know you didn't like how he wasn't honest with Hurley, but I liked that episode. I liked it. It was, kind of teared up a little bit, not too much, but I just liked that, his writing down his different, his greatest hits, and he said it in my pathetic short life or something like that, where he said my pathetic, it was something to that effect, where he had said he wasn't really proud of his life that he had, because he wasted a lot of it, when he was on heroin. So.
I don't. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I don't want to get it wrong. I didn't like that part. I mean, I look back on these shows and I've seen them so many times that, I start to point everything. But
right.
It's hard for me at that point. The only show I had gotten that excited about before that was probably like Sopranos or something, where I was so teed up to see what happened next.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, I can say everything I want now. At the time, I was frothing at the mouth to see the end of season 3.
Right.
So, I mean, I loved it.
So, yeah, I wonder, when people are watching this originally, obviously they're so excited to just figure out what happens next. But at the same time, there must have been this felt like a filler episode, right? But now, many years later, this is a really unique episode where you can have a character who's pretty sure that they're going to die and reflect on their life, right?
Right.
And
I thought it was a good send-off episode for Charlie. I thought he got, because he had where he was, he was lovable, but he was a heroin addict, and then he's lovable again. Then he does the thing to Son, and we don't like him. And then at the end, I think he gets redemption. He's doing something to help the girl he loves, the woman he loves, and the boy he loves. So you can't. It was, to me, I thought a fantastic episode for Charlie. Even though he doesn't die yet, we know what happens in the next episode of the 2-parter. But I thought they did a good job of giving him closure and at least a good send-off, whereas some actors don't get that. Michael.
Echo.
Yeah, Echo. Yeah, they didn't get. They didn't get. I guess Michael gets a little bit, but.
Well, Libby, Libby, right?
Yeah. Libby didn't get. Anna Lucia. Charlie got a fantastic final episode.
I think it's very rare that you can do something like this and somehow make the pieces work in terms of both within the plot, he knowing that there's a chance that he's going to die, right? And the writers telling the audience there's a chance this guy doesn't make it, right? That it kind of all fits, right?
I mean, when he was in the boat with Desmond, and you could see his eyes, tearing up, and as he's talking about. He's thinking about Claire. He's thinking about his life, what he's about to do. And then Desmond says, all right, I'll take your spot. What about your girl? What about your girl? And then he hits him with the oar, knocks Desmond out, and is going to say, no, I'm going to complete the mission because I want Claire to be rescued. That's the main driving force behind Claire and Aaron, the main driving force for him doing this. So it was like I said, like I said, Dominic Monaghan did a really good job in this episode.
And, obviously they were planning this for a while, and, we know Echo, something happened with the actor, with his family or something, that he couldn't be on the show anymore. We know, I guess, Libby and Michelle Rodriguez were having some issues on, adjusting the island life, as I would say. And we know that Dominique was in a relationship that ended with Kate. And that's got to be pressure and hard to work all the time. And so who knows what role that had to play in him leaving the show. but I like it when, actors have a good relationship with the show they leave enough to come back to where the story makes sense.
Right.
He came back in the first episode of 4. I don't know when else he came back a lot in 6, right? So I just like that because it shows that you're paying your respect to your show that you're on and to the fans, and obviously you did like
right.
And who knows why you left, but we're glad to see him back. And skipping ahead to the finale, I mean, if I had to pick like a top like 3 or 4 of the scene, because I cried like a baby through the entire finale. Like I like the finale, but that scene where he finally remembers with the baby and everything, that's
right.
That's one of the all times, man.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And it's just like, I'm watching this the YouTube Reunited show now that they're doing, and today they did the Lord of the Rings one, and he was on that, and Liv Tyler and Dominic Monaghan were on that, and I'm like, I don't want to hear about Lord of the Rings. Let's talk about Leftovers.
Lostovers.
Let's do the Lindelof Reunited.
But anyway, I thought it was a fantastic episode and a great cliffhanger. I don't know how long we had to wait. I don't know if it was it the next week we got the final episode, or was it one of these things where we had to wait 2 weeks? Anyone remember? Because I just remember back then it was like, oh, come on.
I just remember the 2 episodes next were back to back. They were at the same time.
Right.
It was like 2 hours, yeah.
But it was like, but I really enjoyed this episode, and that's it. That's all I got on this.
Yep.
Yep.
Good.
All right, that's our Lost take. So got a few minutes to kill. So what do you guys want to talk about?
Leftovers.
I want to step away for 1 second. I'll be right back. You guys talk.
All right. How you doing, Jack?
Good. We were talking about how, Evangeline Lilly and Dominic Monaghan broke up. Mm-hmm. Well, remember it was in Game of Thrones, the guy that played Bronn and Cersei.
Well, wasn't that even before the show?
Yeah, but they had a thing where they couldn't have scenes together.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Because they just didn't like each other. And I'm like going,
yeah.
And it's a shame because they're both great actors. You think that they could but I guess it was a bad breakup. So you sit there and go.
I think I remember when you guys were doing the podcast with Nick, like there was one scene where it was like the big like throne hall. Yeah. And you guys were checking to see if Bronn was actually in the scene.
Exactly. Because you have to wonder, and you just go, God, it is what it is, but it's like you got a job to do, and you got to push through it.
That's super extreme, though. I've never heard of anything else like that.
I don't believe that. I don't buy that.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of buy it, but I don't. You have to think that those Shakespearean type trained British actor people can keep it together enough to.
Well, there's cases where you have people who don't like each other, and who's ever the lesser star has to leave the show.
Eckhart, we have a talk.
I was just like, you can picture the actor who played Bronn talking to his agent, just like in full on Bronn mode, just let these creative curses being like, oh fuck that. I'm going to be in whatever bloody scene I want to be in.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the truth here. Let's get truthful for a second.
Yes.
Okay.
Me and Eckhart do Westworld for you to have your show, to help you pick out some theories for your real show with Jay.
Exactly.
We know that. We accept it.
It's a feeder show.
So now we're like
filler.
We're the only people doing the one episode before the big finale for the real show, for the real one next week. So who's your guest then?
It's going to be Josh Wigler and because they've committed to doing the final episode of each season.
That's right. Okay, I accept that.
Wait,
so I don't know when it's going to happen. We're still working on it because they're busy and we're doing it. But yeah, it's going to be Wigler and Bloom.
Okay.
Together again.
That's shocker.
The Glimmer twins. I get it.
Which is hard for them because they're
in season 1 still, I think, or something.
No, I think they just finished Dave, I think. So that's
they did.
That's 2 or 3.
That's season 3, isn't it?
No, it's got to be 2 because Libby's in it, right? At the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. You're right.
Yeah.
Hey, Jack, are you making Bloom dress up as Woody from Toy Story again?
No, I will not be doing that.
All right, since we're not talking about that anymore.
Anyway, I'm
All right.
trying to get back
serious
to
look, Aaron. Everything okay? Ethan, everything okay?
Yeah, everything's fine.
Oh, you got rid of your backdrop. Your backdrop.
Yeah.
No, I'm just in my office now.
I know, but you changed the.
Not Penny's head. All right, Leftover season 3. Okay.
Oh,
So what
okay.
I thought I had mentioned it more clearly, but like I hadn't watched season 3 until like a week ago.
Okay.
And it was so stupid because it came out right around the time that the season 3 of Twin Peaks came out. So, and then I never got around to watching Leftovers until I had the like time and the focus to do it.
Sure.
And it's just incredible the way that they kept the same momentum from season 2 up. And it was like we just talked about how they gave Charlie a send-off episode now.
Right.
It felt like most of Leftovers, the final season, was a send-off to every single character.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
For sure.
A phenomenal job.
I still say, because I said at the time, because season 1, most people don't like it. They find it depressing, and I liked it, but it wasn't. Obviously, season 2 is amazing.
Yeah.
And I said at the time, I go, if I'm Lindelof, I just say, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out. I'm not going to be able to top this. It's because you look at season 2 of The Leftovers, and it's like, and I know a lot of people haven't seen it because they didn't finish season 1. And I honestly believe I've said this 1,000 times. You can watch season 2 without watching season 1.
Yeah.
You can, because to me it's a you should watch season 1, but if you don't want to, if you can't get through it, watch season 2, watch season 3. Because it's amazing. It's amazing television.
I'm guessing that people who take up your advice and say start watching season 2 after 1 or 2 episodes, they'll be like, okay, wait a second, I need to go back and watch season 1.
I bet you will too, because if you watch that first episode of season 2, you'll probably get really mad by episode 2 because you're like, you just want more of the Murphys of Regina King and Kevin Carroll. You know what I mean? Those are your
right
people in season 1. That's the biggest problem I see with it. But I mean, by the time you finish season 2 and 3, you'll want to circle back for more of The Leftovers, and you'll watch season 1. You'll like it.
Right. But I think if people would start with season 2, because it didn't do well in the ratings. It's a lot of people haven't seen it. I mean, I know how many people I follow on Facebook and Twitter go, I've never seen The Leftovers.
Yeah.
I go, well, it's great television. You should watch it.
I mean, it really is, like, for lack of a better term, like, it's like graduate level speculative fiction watching.
Yeah.
You know, go ahead.
And I'm guessing that probably when they started working on season 2, and actually we have the expert here, so he'll be able to shoot this theory out of the water in a millisecond. I'm guessing that when they did the first season, like, they stuck pretty closely to the book.
Yeah.
And the second season, Lindelof had more of a hand, but I also know that they brought on probably a lot more writers.
Season 1, they kind of followed the book, but not really. It ended at the exact same point. You know, it has the exact same ending point. A lot of things are very different. But at the very last thing in season 1 is Nora saying, look what I found. And that's the very last thing you see at the end of season 1.
Mm-hmm.
So, but in the second season, they brought on Reza Aslan, which I don't know if you know who he is. He's this religious scholar guy, and he wrote this book about Jesus, and he knows a lot about shamanism and all that kind of thing. And it plays into a lot of what Kevin went through. So, yeah, I mean, it totally went off, and they brought in a lot more people in season 2 to help, including him.
Like, I mean, this is a really obscure point, but one of the guys, I think he wrote either episode 3 or 4, is a writer. I don't know his name, but he's a author, has 3 or 4 books under his belt, who's a friend of a friend of mine that friend is an author who writes really good speculative fiction. So it's like part of the same writing circle. So to give a sense like that they're having people come on to write like individual episodes who are like really good speculative fiction writers in their own right is like this immense thing. And I really got the vibe once I learned about that it was like, you know, like we've always said, like it's obvious to us now that actors want to work with Lindelof. I'm pretty sure writers do too.
Right.
Because here's a guy who obviously he's got his hand in every episode and is the overall arc story, but he probably gives them free reign to be like as like intense as possible, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when we saw it, like I've got to go back and see whoever wrote "It's a Matt world," right? Because it is one of those episodes where it's like, I always think about you, Jack, when I see an episode like this, because I'm like thinking like, there's no way that even Jack could have predicted what happens in the next 5 minutes, right?
Yeah, it was. But you mentioned that people want to work with Lindelof, and you can tell. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, the Watchmen and Leftovers, you have some of the best actors. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're just great actors. And except the writing and the music and because he has such clout.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
especially it's probably more now than it was even after Lost because of the success of the Leftovers. And, of course, Watchmen was near perfect. So,
like, you couldn't get a better show critically than The Leftovers season 2 and least watched than season 2 of The Leftovers. Yeah. Like, three of us were watching it and Jay was watching it. And that was about it.
Right? Because we were worried it wasn't going to come back for season 3.
Yeah, and there was so much resting on season 3. So much because the things were so high that I was just thinking about this. Like season 3 is almost like a victory lap where they try not to overdo it. Anyway, but I mean they did, but it's okay because it's The Leftovers the way they did it. And certain like season 3 episodes have risen or fallen in this new rewatch of mine that I've done. Like Certified has gone way up.
Yeah.
And I was starting to realize that my opinion that episode is a little bit tainted by what they did in the finale with the character from Certified. Spoilers, I don't want to say it right out loud, but it's kind of my biggest disappointment with the series because of how good Certified is, how good Amy Brenneman is in that episode, how good Carrie Coon is in that episode. Like I watched it 3 or 4 times, including cutting up a reaction video, and I teared up like almost every single time. Maybe I'm emotional.
So okay, we need to speak freely about this and screw the spoilers. Okay, the show's been out for 3 years. Okay,
so skip ahead.
So you're upset that because of there's the scene where Nora calls up Lori at some point in time in the future, and you thought that obligatory F you, Lori. Is that you thought that final scene of Certified where she goes scuba diving, that she took her life, right?
Yeah. Now I'm kind of waiting to hear see how I feel when I watch the Book of Nora again, because that might change my mind. Because I see what they were saying, because they said they made a choice based on her performance, right?
Right.
So, and her performance is really good, but they do everything in that episode to tell you she committed suicide. Mm-hmm. They made the song they chose for the episode, 1-800-SUICIDE by the Gravediggers. They have Nora's plainly, they show her first suicide attempt before she joined the Guilty Remnant, right? They have Nora lay out the whole scuba diving thing. They have her say a final goodbye. They have her drug her husband and her stepson and her old father-in-law so she could say a final goodbye to her ex-husband. And then she says, he says, is Nora gone? She goes, we're all gone. And then she goes scuba diving.
Right.
And so because the actress, Amy Brenneman, who is, after watching it again, I can just say she's a genius actor, right? like she herself couldn't believe that Lori would do that after that call from her kids, and that's why she made her acting choices the way she did. Right. And they needed some kind of link with Nora in that last episode to kind of ground it in the real world so people didn't think they were in an alternate reality. Right. And so that's what they chose based on her performance to use that.
Interesting. So after they shot Certified, they hadn't finished shooting the Book of Nora, obviously, right? So they were able to shoot that scene for that. That's what you're
all
saying.
Based on things that I've read in the past, yeah, from my understanding. Yeah.
I mean, I like how you laid out all you could see like both the flashbacks and the steps that she takes point towards her having made a decision to end her life, right?
Yeah.
But then when she hears her kids,
right,
that then, and I mean, there's another aspect to it too, which you should have mentioned, is that everyone was talking about the end of the world happening, right?
Right.
So even though she was kind of like man of science, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure part of her thought there's a good chance we don't make it in the next 24 hours, right?
I don't think she thought that. I have a strong opinion on this after watching Certified so many times. She has that final vision with Kevin, and it's the only time in the whole series that we see Kevin perfectly clean, like groomed and warm and feeling happy is in that scene when he's ready to give himself up for these selfish a-holes in the house who want to kill him and have him do all these things. And she looks to me, she looks so sad because she was looking for some sign that he didn't want to do it or that he was being forced to do it so she could try to save him. But she seems to see that he is so happy and wrapped up in his delusion, which at the end of the series we know is a delusion, that the waves are coming at her and she's tired of fighting the waves. She's tired of pushing with all her psychiatrist training against the other way. She's tired of being the usher that takes down the volleyball, that Nora was discussing. Does that make sense? So she's kind of like, all right, everybody's feeling this way. I don't believe it. I'm kind of going back to the way I felt. I think that when she gets on the call with her kids, if you're going the suicide route, it's like, they sound great. They're going to be fine. They don't need me. And she even says it. We raised two beautiful kids, and they sound all happy, and they're talking about today's special,
And then they say, F you, mommy.
Yeah, F you, mommy. And if you remember, no one remembers, but if you remember my letter for that week to Jay, Jack, and Michael, I feel like this S is too heavy for me. I can't even write a letter this week. I used it many times after that. But yeah, like it's the only time I felt like in a show that made real efforts not to pull the rug from under you, that the rug was pulled from under me. That's why I don't like that particular aspect of the finale.
If it makes you feel any better, Ethan, when they actually in the Book of Nora showed her talking on the phone while she's in the playground, like I assumed that it was like some sort of parallel universe or something.
No, it doesn't make me feel any better.
I tried.
Okay. I appreciate it. But did you like the finale?
I liked every episode.
Yeah. Was Nora lying, Eckhart?
What's that?
Was Nora lying?
It doesn't matter.
No, that's cop out. Cop out.
I would say what was amazing to me was that
I'm trying to remember what I said at the time.
Was that there was that perfect parallel between her telling the story to Kevin, and then a few episodes earlier, where the Australian woman is telling her story to Kevin Dad, Kevin Senior, and they're seated. It looks in the same lighting and everything, and it's like this was a situation where in the first version of that scene, like Kevin Senior, he's like, "Yeah, I'll believe anything." And in the second version, Kevin Jr. was like, "We've been through too much shit. I'll just believe it," right?
Yeah.
So,
and that's basically what John says to Lori too in Certified. He's like, I can't tell Kevin Sr. he's crazy because then the thing I believe that my daughter is still alive is crazy. So we have to go with it.
I like the fact that Nora told that story like it was basically in one take, right? It was like a few, and the camera was almost always on her the whole time, right? Just a few small reactions from Garvey, but
she's effing crazy. I need to go along with this if I'm going to keep her. Go ahead.
But it's kind of like you get to that point in the series, and it's like all these people had to deal with so many different delusions. Like, what is one more?
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing. And it's like, it was like the same thing with the end of Lost, right? Like, you know, I said I cried. I admitted I cried on this podcast more than I've ever cried. You know, telling everyone all I do is sit around and watch Damon Lindelof shows and cry. It's all I do. But it's like the same thing. Like immediately right after the episode, I thought I believed her. It was great. And like, you know, my heart believed it. So, you know, I say you did a cop out when you say it doesn't matter, but I have a cop out too. My cop out is my heart says one thing, my head says another. Seriously, my heart believes her. I believe what she said. I believe the actress. But you know, all the evidence point to, you know, no, that didn't happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, they did that brilliant shot where the tub is filling up, and at the last moment, she like her head tilts back, and it looks like she says no or stop, right?
It guarantee it looks like it says stop because
right.
people say, and I've seen this recently, not on any leftovers groups because I would never be a part of that. The subtitles say on the DVD that she says yes.
Funny.
But they're wrong because no one brings up the fact that the doctor specifically told her, don't open your mouth.
Right.
Don't, because then it won't work.
Right.
Because the special chemical that looks and smells exactly like water, something will not work. So she opened her mouth and she was going to say stop.
Wow.
They didn't put any money into those Blu-rays or DVDs. No one was buying leftover stuff. That's how I feel about it.
But it was like the pacing and the tone of the final part of the finale, right? Very different from the rest of the show, right? You agree, right?
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was like one of those. The irony was, as Damon Lindelof himself was not egging us on, but asking us to watch his finale, was right when Twin Peaks 3 started. And Twin Peaks 3 actually did something very similar at the end of their series too, where they have a portion that lasts about an hour that's very different from the rest of the series. So it's almost like a mini movie within a movie. And it's like, I remember, I didn't even know that there was controversy about Nora's story, right? I didn't know that until I got done watching, and then I started reading up on it.
Right.
But as I'm watching, I'm listening to it, I was like, okay, this either happened or she's nuts. But that's not the point of any of this. Is the point that like Garvey's like, it's all to him. It's all about like he lost so much time,
right?
And he doesn't care. They've all been through so much. And to him, a guy who was spent all of season 2 and season 3 wondering if he was able to die.
Right.
Right. Like to him, it's like, okay, maybe she did. It doesn't matter. Right.
Season 1 always
able to find her
in the gutters.
Yeah. Right. They were cleaning gutters.
That's like, I mean, we don't know how much time passed since then, right?
It was 20 years, but I got a question for you guys because there was a very long Vulture article when that came out.
Yeah.
When you're taking a show into account, can you take what you read in the articles that the filmmaker says as part of it, or do you have to take the show? Or do you have to take the show as is when making your conclusions? Because he has said things, Damon Lindelof has said things in that Vulture article, this big, very long piece about them filming the last episode. So many things that lead me to believe that everything she said about the world where she went is what happened. in his mind, but he never says whether she went there or not. But that is the place they went, another Earth in a different like dimension.
For me, it depends if I like their explanation or not. If I like mine better, I go with mine.
Yeah, let's go with the best. Lead with the best crackpot theory.
Because there's times I go, I still don't buy it. I like my way. I like my answer better.
He said in the pilot, Peter Berg, they were filming the scene with the first lady in the car and her baby disappears. And he says, and Damon Lindelof said, let's just take some time and do the exact same shot, except like a baby starts crying in an empty parking lot somewhere, like the exact opposite of it. And we'll save that and probably use that down the road as the end. But
wasn't this where the window was open? Why the mom was driving, the window was open?
It's the dry cleaner woman, right? The one that ends up being Laurie's patient, right?
I don't think she's a dry cleaner woman, but yeah, it's her. She's your patient.
Because
it's at the parking lot of the dry cleaning.
Oh, was it the parking lot?
Because she runs in to get it. And by the way, like I remember, kudos to you, Jack. Like you were harping on this character in season 1, right?
I didn't like her.
And I love the fact that she was the one that broke Laurie, right?
Yeah,
and certified.
Yeah, she broke her.
So I love the fact that they brought back. They really in season 3 they really did blend, the characters from season 2 and season 1. The fact that they bring back I should know the actor's name, the guy that shoots the dogs.
Dean.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Jack, the prototypical evil bald guy.
Yeah, good bald guys. We kill dogs and cats and people.
And just like, because I mean, I remember us when we were watching season 1 just trying to really figure out, like, first of all, we weren't sure if he was actually real,
right?
And then he showed up at like the town hall meeting. We're
right.
Like, oh, I guess he's real. And then like they explained him very easily in the first episode of season 3. It was like, yeah, he's just crazy.
Yeah.
Well, they did a lot of flipping like that. That's the fun stuff. And I'm trying to talk with Benji now about it, and I'm trying to figure out a way to let him, because he's talking to me on this kind of thing, and he just thinks he needs to have a counter for everything I say, so there's a conversation. And now we're at the point where we need to let go and just like let it like wash over you, because we're about to watch the most powerful man in the world and his identical twin brother, right? It's just like, and he's really uncomfortable around like anything having to do with nudity or anything. And
he's gonna love the security system then.
There's jokes for miles in that episode, right? Like there's even wallpaper in the limousine behind Evie that's like shaped like penises. So I mean, I don't know how it's gonna go.
I want to know, like, how much preparation did they give Justin Theroux for that scene?
I don't know.
Like, I want to know if, like, they actually told him, like, okay, if when they're shooting the scene, they're like, all right, you're going to have to punch in the code. And then they didn't tell him about the second layer, and that the Australian guy who's his bodyguard is then like, sir, you're going to have to pull your trousers down. Whatever it is.
I think it's all probably in the script and you read it.
I hope it wasn't. I'm going to have to do some research on that after this. Okay.
I want to move to a different TV show for a second.
Okay. But just 1 second.
Okay, just 1 second. Well, do you have anything else to ask about The Leftovers? Because
no, I just think anyone who's watching this, if you stuck with it, if you're a fan of Lost, you have to watch it. If you haven't seen The Leftovers, you have to watch it.
I want to say one more thing, and this was probably the comedic high point of the entire series for me. When Garvey Sr. gets the copy of Matt's religious text or whatever it's called, and he's reading through it, and he's cursing because it's not mentioning him.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
he was under the impression that the book was about his miracle exploits. I mean, that was just amazing to me, because
he learned nothing by the end of that episode. Because next time you see him, he just transferred it onto his son, and he still has to go get the song, which the guy told him didn't think, and he still has to do it, and he has to feel like he has to kill his son. Anyway, I'll just go forever.
I just loved it. Just like
that is a great. That is. I forgot all about that. That is a great scene.
He's just cursing under his breath. He's like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
And outside that scene, there's a shed. He's outside near a shed, and
he's like at a rest stop, and he's like drinking a beer.
And it's similar side of the thing.
I loved it. I need to apologize to you, Ethan, for not having watched it sooner.
Well, I will never apologize for not watching Twin Peaks, so don't worry about it.
That's fine. Yeah. Non-apology accepted. All right. What show do you want to talk about?
Well, before that, I had one more Lost thing. I sent you guys that article, right, about who would do the show again after the 10 years, because it was Lost Rewatch. And Evangeline Lilly said, chimed in and admitted she didn't like how her character turned out. I always thought Kate was obnoxious. Not at the beginning. At the beginning, she was kind of cool, but as the show went on, I thought she became more and more predictable. I felt that my character went from being autonomous, really having her own story, journey, and agendas, to chasing between the two men around the island. It irritated the S out of me.
Yeah.
She's not wrong.
I mean, it really, I mean, we've kind of, in many ways, from a television viewing standpoint, we've kind of evolved in the sense that you don't make 24 episode seasons of shows like Lost anymore.
Mm-mm.
No. And if you do the procedurals, they're not like Lost. They're like,
right.
If
Lost ever comes back, it has to be no more than 10 episodes a season.
Yeah.
It's like this other show that I'm watching now, recommended to me on the Facebook group by David Clausen, I think. St. Elsewhere.
Oh, you've never seen St. Elsewhere?
I never saw St. Elsewhere because I started watching ER again for like the 18th time.
Uh-huh.
Like, why don't you check out St. Elsewhere? And I did because I heard about it a lot.
And then he's going to watch Hill Street Blues.
St. Elsewhere has Hill Street Blues is a great show too. Some of the dialogue doesn't add up because jive turkey and all that, the insults we had in the late 70s, early 80s doesn't really carry over to that. Anyway, go ahead, St. Elsewhere with a great cast.
Well, the cast is amazing. The character actor spotting is amazing. Seriously, like in the first, I'm only like 10 episodes in, but in the first 4 episodes, Tim Robbins is in it, plays this like young terrorist kid, right? And Doris Roberts was in the next episode, and it just keeps going on and on. And a lot of the things exactly where they're going. Denzel Washington and Howie Mandel.
Yeah.
Ed Begley Jr.
Yeah.
The only problem is they had this really like fake Rip Me Off Born to Run playing in the emergency room because they couldn't pay for the real one on Hulu. I'm really enjoying it, and I didn't. You know where everything's going because you've seen it all before. Because ER is kind of like a direct copy, kind of. But hey guys, if anyone hasn't seen a show from 1982 and you want to enjoy St. Elsewhere,
I was a big fan of St. Elsewhere
because John Adams is in it as well, aka Mr. Feeney, William Daniels,
and Flounder from Animal House.
Does he get into it? He's not in it right now.
Oh, he's not in it. I'm sorry. Then yeah, he's in it too.
And the lead actor is named Ed Flanders.
Ed Flanders, yes.
Who's just one letter away.
Yeah.
From Ned Flanders. Anyway.
Who unfortunately killed himself.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, that's.
I hate to be depressing, but he did kill himself.
He probably wasn't certified. Sorry.
But no, yeah, he ends up. I forget why, but I think he just was suffering from depression and killed himself, if I remember correctly. But I know that I don't know why that always pops in my head that he.
Sometimes
he's fantastic on the show. He's also on an episode of MASH too.
I didn't watch your video. I went down a David Ogden Steyer's hole. What's his name? Winchester. Yeah, the other day on YouTube, watching a bunch of his stuff because he was in an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation once. I was enjoying some of it. Not enough to make me want to watch MASH. I got a real problem with canned laughter. I really do. But I like.
It's funny with MASH. The first 3 or 4 seasons, you don't notice it, and they don't have the laughter in the operating room.
Right, but that's the fun.
when they're operating on the soldiers, they don't have laughter.
So MASH for me was always the thing that came on when cartoons ended
Right.
on the local TV. You remember that, Ethan?
I do. And
That's why, like whenever like Transformers would end, and then you would hear like, what is the theme song of MASH?
Suicide is painless.
I'd be like, oh, come on. And the Chopper song coming on, and be like, that meant it was time for me to go do homework or something like that, right?
One of those.
So neither one of you have seen MASH?
Well,
Bits
I've
and
seen
pieces.
some of it. I've seen the last episode, and I've seen the movie like 8 to 10 times or something stupid. So
all I know, Jack, is that it's one of your favorite shows, and that the finale is supposed to be the best finale ever.
I didn't. It's funny, when I first saw the finale, I didn't like it.
It's a rough one.
Yeah,
because it does. I guess I can spoil it, because Hawkeye loses it.
Yeah,
and Hawkeye was always a rock. Hawkeye was always the guy, and it's just like I didn't like that. But then when years later, I watched it again. I go, and then I did a rewatch, and I noticed that he was kind of slipping. He was kind of getting stressed out towards the end anyway. So it wasn't like it just came out of the blue. That's what MASH did really well, is that, Major Houlihan didn't suddenly become nice because it took time. Over time, she became a nicer person. Radar grew up, from a farm boy to a man towards the end. I mean, they didn't just overnight, boom, this is what's going to happen. They did a good job with that.
How many seasons was it?
11. It went on too long. I mean, right. It did get to the point, because the first 5 seasons, it was more of a dramedy type thing. The last 6 seasons was more of the drama. It was more drama than comedy.
Yeah.
Well, I heard that's one of the things they had to do to keep Alan Alda.
Well, yeah, because he was, because I said the video you're talking about, as I mentioned, 3 of the main characters that left the first 5 seasons all were adulterous. They were all in the, Trapper was always cheating. Colonel Blake was always cheating, and Frank Burns was cheating with Major Houlihan. They got rid of all those characters, and it really didn't become, because it was always part of the storyline the first 5, at least first 4 seasons, because spoiler alert, Frank and Hot Lips gets engaged to Donald Penobscot, so her and Frank are no longer an item. So about season 4, adultery stops being a focal point of the show, and I think it's because, and Hawkeye's less of a player with the. I mean, he still likes the nurses, but it's less of a storyline than it was in the first 4 seasons.
Well, that's like I said, when I was growing up, one of those VHSs that you had growing up as a kid, one of them happened to be randomly MASH, the movie, like off the TV on a cable station or something. So I've seen the movie a lot, and that's kind of baked into what the story is, because they're all away from home, and I guess they were accepting it more back then, and so all the MASH people would mix together and MASH. Anyway, so yeah, I can see that happening on television, of course.
There also used to be a group called the Moral Majority, and I think it was
joining us tonight.
Yeah, I think it was Jerry Farwell, maybe, was the leader of it. Mm-hmm. And I know they were putting pressure, like boycott MASH, boycott the soap, and different shows. Married with Children was one that they would go after. And you're like going, it's just a TV show.
But he's the main player in the savings and loan scan, right? Or was that
Jerry Farwell?
Who am I thinking?
You're talking about Keating.
Yeah, Keating. Yeah, no.
No. Falwell is Liberty University.
Yeah, I believe so. I could be wrong about Jerry Farwell. It was somebody, and so maybe that had something to do with it, because they were drinking all the time. But to me, it's a TV show. It was probably pretty close to reality.
No, your memory's correct.
It was Jerry Farwell.
Yeah,
but actually, when they said boycotting Married with Children, I wasn't watching Married with Children yet. I started watching it after I heard they were saying to boycott it. I said, well, I got to see what they're talking about. And I go, oh, this show's great. So I started watching it after they said to boycott it. So again, if you want to boycott something, you can boycott something. I'm not here to preach to you, but
it's really tough to boycott things in the age of cable TV, isn't it?
Yeah, but MASH did change. It did change its philosophy. So
I just want a no ma'am shirt now. For Married with Children. Al Bundy was in that group, no ma'am.
Right.
Sure. No, but
yeah, MASH is like, to me. A lot of people don't. They don't think it holds up, but like I said, I'm in season 5 right now, and I'll probably watch a couple seasons into season. About season 7, and I'll stop.
When it aired from the late 70s to the early 80s, right?
Yeah, and I watched it as a kid.
That's the thing with my mom. That's amazing to me that you watched it as a kid, because I just remember like as a kid trying to watch it, and it's just like
I was 10 or 11. Of course, a lot of the jokes I probably didn't get.
Well, no, Jack's talking about real time. You're talking about reruns.
Yeah, same thing though. I was probably around the same age as Jack was when he watched it as a kid, and I was watching on the rerun. I was like, "There's nothing funny here."
Well, see, the music really turned me off. I really hate the theme song on the TV show.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like it, but
it was cool because it was a guitar and it had lyrics about suicide. So in your mind, you're like, "Oh, that sounds cool." And they were having the fake funeral for the guy in the movie, and it was Elliot Gould and Tom Skerritt and Donald Sutherland. But the same thing with Taxi. I missed a lot of good Taxi because I couldn't.
Oh, I saw bits and pieces of Taxi a few months ago because I wanted to see just some clips of Danny DeVito. That looks like a show that is still very funny today.
You've never seen Taxi?
I've seen bits and pieces of it over
All right,
time.
I'm going to send you a link after we're done recording here of the funniest scene in the history of television. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I will send it to you.
All right. Is
Christopher
Lloyd in it?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's a driver ed. It's when he's getting his license.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
It is literally the funniest scene. It's hilarious. And Taxi was really good for like 3 or 4 years.
Well, the thing about it is like, so DeVito obviously is good on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but he's already like, by the time he joins that show, he's already pushing like 70, right?
Right.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I mean, the character that he plays in Taxi, right? I don't even know. He's like the head dispatcher, whatever he is, right?
He's in charge of the cab thing.
But he is just embodies like that aspect of the New York, New Jersey area perfectly. Like he embodies so many people that I came across earlier in my career and when I lived in North Jersey. It's just like,
there's an episode where he puts a Pac-Man machine. I think it's Pac-Man in the thing, and Jim gets addicted to it. So he's handing out paychecks. He's giving it here you go, Rieger, here you go, blah, 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 blah. But he gives Ignatowski a pack of quarters because he's making money on the machine. So it's just one of those things where he goes, here you go.
I mean, I'm not mistaken in the sense that that was a very gritty show when it came out.
Yeah.
And it came out in the early 80s, right? Before things got really sanitized, mid 80s, right?
Yeah, probably.
Like it really shows New York as like a dirty city, right?
Well, the cabs are dirty. I know.
The cab garage is dirty.
I mean, that's the vibe you're getting. You're getting like more of a shady blue collar type experience here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely blue collar because the cab drivers.
Yeah. So, but it's like a show like that probably wouldn't have been made a few years later when things got sanitized. Right?
What are the shows you're thinking that are sanitized?
Well, I'm thinking like Taxi is grittier than Cheers, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Don't tell anyone. I never liked Cheers.
I mean, I'm not a big Cheers fan, but that's what I know that was like the big comedy.
People know your name?
Not really. I like some of the people on Cheers. I just don't like,
But I would fathom to guess that like Taxi was grittier in its like more aggressive in its humor than like Friends, which was like 15 years later, right, when it came out, right?
Oh, it had some. It pushed the envelope.
Yeah. Like I'm guessing if you take like an early episode of Friends from the mid '90s and you compare like the level of humor, like the level of sarcasm, to Taxi, that Taxi just knocks it out of the park, right?
Yeah, from what I remember, yeah, I would say so. At the time, I didn't know. I just liked watching Taxi. It was funny. So,
But it's like an uncomfortable humor, right?
no,
I wouldn't say
it's not like The Office. No.
no.
But like Danny DeVito, the actual person, is not supposed to make you feel comfortable. Like
No,
it's like
no. He doesn't, and like I said, you don't like him, but you can't. The show doesn't work without him.
But that's the whole point. It's like you like seeing him like being Danny DeVito to other people, but you don't want to be in that same room and have him turn the gun on you.
Exactly. No, you don't want him.
That's what I'm saying. Like how gritty it is, right?
Right.
I mean, I guess I only became aware of it after I'd already watched Who's the Boss. So I was like, this is where Tony Danza was before that.
Oh, you're kidding. That's a spin-off from Taxi?
No, but Tony Danza, I mean, because Tony Danza is playing a completely different character.
Right, okay. And it's a different network, too.
Yeah, it's a totally different show. Just saying that's where I saw Dan.
On 2 networks. It got canceled and got picked up by another network.
Really?
So,
it's no small wonder. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But so Tony Danza is like one of the cab drivers on Taxi?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And what's his name? Kinnicky. What's the?
Bobby.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Conway.
Jeff Wheeler. Well, Jeff Wheeler is his character, right?
Huh?
Bobby Wheeler was his character. Jeff Conway, yeah, who passed away.
Yeah. And then they all played themselves. A lot of them played themselves in the Man in the Moon movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you guys see that making of?
I did see
everyone. Yeah. Not into that. Anyway.
I saw it.
Yeah, I'm not into people like embodying the character so much that they even do things that they wouldn't think the real guy did. Like apparently Andy Kaufman was never a real jerk to Jerry Lawler, but Jim Carrey couldn't accept it and was a jerk to Jerry Lawler. Anyway, he just couldn't accept that Andy Kaufman was nice to this guy.
So, Jack, was Andy Kaufman really that big?
Yeah, he was. He just did things that were. He would go on Saturday Night Live and just do things that were like no one ever. He would just do. He'd play like he'd put a little record player there and play Mighty Mouse. Mighty Mouse is on his way, or he just did weird stuff, and he was like I remember him doing stand-up one time, and some guy's giving him a heckling him in the audience. Mm-hmm. And the guy goes, and they're going back and forth. The guy goes, "You paid me to do this. He paid me. Why would I have a microphone on? He paid." And he goes, "Ah," and then they cut away. So was it done intentionally? Was it not done? But that was Andy Kaufman. And like when he got slapped by Jerry Lawler on Letterman, I was watching that. I used to watch Letterman religiously, and I was like, "Holy crap!" But then you find out that it was all. Part of it was harder to find information out back then because you didn't have the internet.
Right.
But you find out, okay, that was staged, and but that was what Andy Kaufman did. So when people said, "Oh, he staged his death," right. We were all waiting for Andy Kaufman to come back because it was something Andy Kaufman would do.
Right.
Two things I saw recently. Andy Kaufman just two blow me away. One is there's a video where he talks to. It's called "I'm from Hollywood." And it's about his wrestling thing.
Yes.
Right? And I just remember as a kid watching this video, and the whole thing is around, I'm better than you. Look at me. I'm from Hollywood. I'm from Hollywood. And there's a whole video about it. And the second one, look up the old show Midnight Special, the old rock concert, and just look up Andy Kaufman on that. I can't even really describe it. You just
Well, there's a show on it used to be Fridays and he's on there with Kramer. What's Kramer's?
Michael Richards.
Michael Richards. He's on there, and it's a live show, and Andy Kaufman goes off script.
Yeah,
and Michael Richards is like just losing it. He's getting mad, and so he finally just throws. He goes off and gets the cue cards and throws them at him and stuff like that, and it cuts away because that's what Andy Kaufman would do.
Right, it's just so unpredictable.
Right, and just people would, and some people went with it. Some people said, "No, I'm not putting up with it." So it made.
It was because at that point in time, if you were some sort of a celebrity, you really didn't take these risks, right? Like
most people don't take they just go
right.
because the power of Hollywood.
Right.
If it doesn't work,
right,
and if people aren't putting up with it, you're done. I mean,
that's the time. I mean, like the management agencies, producer, whatever, the whole infrastructure above the actor level was so much more powerful back then, right?
Right.
That like no one would just do this like crazy stuff and be reckless.
And actors don't want to work with you. I mean, it comes down to, like I said, if you can make someone money, you can get away with it. If you're not making them money, you're done.
I'm guessing he wasn't motivated by the bucks, though.
No, I think he was motivated by the put on and people getting wound up.
Yeah. He loved pissing people off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole Waka character was he just he would just go on and on and on. On Taxi, he just had this whole character where he had this language of all his own. So it was part of his stand-up, I think, and that's how they got him on.
Yeah, it was foreign. It was called Foreign Man, I think.
Yeah, something like that. So they when he was on Taxi, they said, "Okay, we're gonna make you just be the foreign guy."
And he was named after a delicious Jewish delicacy.
I mean, the fact that they were able to maintain that guy on the show probably speaks a lot to that entire group, both the actors and the producers, right?
Yeah. Well, if you got the talent, they put up with it, right?
Right.
It's there if he's getting the laughs every week. And I remember as a kid watching like the things I laughed at that show was Latka. You know what I mean? Latka and Reverend Jim. That's why I laughed.
Yeah, but he got married to Carol Kane. Yeah, and she had an affair. She slept with Alex. Their cab got stuck, and so to keep warm, they were in the back, and so it was. I'm
gonna have to look that up.
I'm gonna have to watch Taxi from the beginning.
Yeah, it's what I remember about Taxi at the beginning. The guy that they ended up cutting out of replacing him with Jim. They bring him in, and they're saying this is Elaine. She's a art gallery person. This is Bobby. He's an actor. This is Tony, he's a boxer. This is everyone. He goes, and Alex goes, "I'm a cab driver." He was the only one that was a cab driver.
Was Jim a replacement for Latka?
No, it was this other guy. Bob, what was his name? Bob or?
Okay.
It was a guy that he was. He was only on for a few episodes.
Okay.
But they replaced him. They brought Jim in to replace him, and that really pushed that. It was a good replace because the other guy was okay, but Jim Mignahowski was one of the greatest characters of all time. So, anyway, is that all we got? I think we talked more about other TV than we did Lost.
Yeah, we've got a few like decades worth of TV to still discuss between now and the end of time. So
yeah.
Hey, there's like 18 new Sopranos podcasts out, so I've been listening to those.
Well, maybe we can come back in like a month and talk about TV again, and doesn't have to be about Lost. We can just get on here and chat.
Listen, I want to put it in now. I just watched the first episode of season 5 of Lost because I was like flipping through after Greatest Hits.
Season 5.
Yeah, I want to be your permanent guy. Season 5. Season 5 is awesome. I love that. Anyway. I love
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah, totally.
All right, guys, it was fun. I'll send you that link of that clip.
Thank you.
As soon as I hang up here, and if you don't laugh, you don't laugh. But I've seen it a billion times, and I laugh every single time.
Sounds good.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks for being here, guys.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, I got to stop this.